just whipping a kettle out of thin air. Okay. Welcome everyone to our first episode of After the Last Client.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. We're really excited. I'm Melissa Reed. I am a therapist, a social worker here at Counselling and Psychotherapy, and
I am Hilary McCullough, a registered psychotherapist here at Counselling, and you forgot an important part. You are also the owner of Tree.
Oh yes, of course. That is important, I guess.
That is important.
So it's our first episode of After the Last Client.
Yeah.
And this podcast is going to be talking from our experience as therapists, what we reflect on and what we experience maybe after a day of sessions. We often get into conversations that we've noticed get a little deeper, go into a certain space around the humanness of this experience, and thought maybe this is something other people would benefit from listening to, and or would touch on something that other people experience but maybe don't have someone to talk to, so they could be here with us.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do just want to share, while this podcast is about therapy and things we experience as therapists or in therapy, we do want to note that this is kind of purely for the sake of us being able to share, reflect, connect on these experiences, and it is not at all a substitute for therapy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to put it out there that you and I are reading from scripts today. This is, as our first episode, we are going to be fully transparent that we're not at a point in our podcasting journey where we are memorizing what we wanted to talk about with each other. Yeah. But I will say, while the questions are written out, our answers are authentic.
They are very candid.
We have not practiced this at all.
Yeah, we are baby podcasters.
That's right. Exactly. So maybe it would be helpful, though, to reintroduce ourselves in terms of our education background, who we see as clients, and what modalities or what therapy models do we bring into the room?
Yeah.
Do you want to go first?
Sure. I mainly work with adults. I don't see kiddos or anything like that, and I only do individual therapy. I love to work with people in like that age range of like 20 to 30, but I also see people from all different walks of life, navigating lots of different things. I work a lot with depression, anxiety, self-compassion, self-esteem, things like that, but also just like life stressors, kind of adjustment reactions we might be having to tough things going on in our life. And I've been in practice a little over 4 years, so really kind of growing into myself as a therapist and learning as I go.
Absolutely.
And a couple of I practice from a lot of different approaches. I like to describe myself as a little bit of a more, I guess, eclectic therapist in that way, but I love to use compassion-focused therapy. Acceptance and commitment therapy is one of my favorites for sure. I do use some cognitive methods, mindfulness, somatic strategies, all those things. But yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Yeah. Thank you. I love it. So yeah, a little bit about me. So I have been practicing in the community in the area of grief and bereavement for over 20 years. That's a bit unbelievable. But as a therapist working in private practice, though, about 13 years. Coming out of grief and bereavement and working in that area, I started noticing a lot of people who were navigating what we would consider attachment injuries. So I got more into attachment-based therapies like narrative therapy. And working in trauma and complex trauma has led me to modalities like EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization reprocessing therapy, as well as I am IFS trained, which is internal family systems. Now, if you are listening to this podcast right now out in the world and saying, what the heck? It's okay.
Yeah.
You don't need to know these things, but we do.
Yes.
And these are areas where we feel really confident.
Yeah.
So I as well only see adults. We have some amazing, competent therapists in Tree who see kiddos. But my area is with adults of any demographic, if they're over 18.
Yeah. Lovely. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course. So let's maybe get real about being therapists
Yeah.
and what we're seeing.
Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about kind of what we hold after a day of therapy. Sometimes these conversations go in a multitude of directions based on the fact that, and maybe you can agree with this, we see a multitude of different presenting concerns in the room.
Yeah.
You know, when we were in the height of COVID, I would say to my family, I might have someone who comes in who has a family member who's in the hospital. I might have someone who comes in who's a healthcare provider next. I might have someone who doesn't want to talk about the pandemic at all. Yeah. And I might have someone who is a scientist or a chemist and leading, that work. So we can see so many different people in a day. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think lots of different people sit on the couch across from us, and it can feel, sometimes a little disorienting, right? Of like from one session, you may be talking about what feels like a really heavy traumatic experience, and you're holding that with the client and holding space for them. And then the next session could be something totally different. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, maybe you're celebrating a success with a client, something that they've, kind of a goal they've achieved, right? It could be kind of a monumental life moment. So yeah, it can feel sometimes like you get a little bit of whiplash almost.
That's a great word for it, whiplash. Yeah. That's how I would probably express it some days. Yeah. So let's talk about what, for you, Hilary, can you think about maybe recently, and to be clear, we're not going to talk about clients. We're not going to talk about specifics and cases. Yeah. This is really what stays with us and what we feel and what we experience or what we think after we've been with clients for the day. So when you think about this, what tends to stay with you after your sessions?
Yeah, that's a big question.
It is.
Yeah, I think sometimes for me, the thing that can stay with me is just the heaviness of what clients are experiencing. And while as a therapist, it's not our job to, save them from those experiences or rescue them or be able to fix them, eliminate them, any of those kind of things. There's a party that wants to. Of course. I think it's on a human level, like you want to be able to kind of take that pain that they're experiencing and like make it so that they don't have to, hold it, feel it, sit with it, experiences the impacts of that. And so sometimes that's the hardest part, is like knowing we can't do that and having to sometimes sit in that discomfort of, one, that's not my job, and two, I don't have any control over that. But there is still meaningful work in being able to sit in front of that client and give them space to just talk about like what they're feeling, what they're noticing, what they're experiencing. And for some people, we are the only person and space that they can do that with in their life. And so there's sometimes this kind of, I guess, dichotomy or kind of paradox that presents itself there of, it's really meaningful work, and it can feel really uncomfortable at times to not be able to kind of, like to see such pain and not be able to necessarily do anything about it. Yeah.
Well, and I'm going to say maybe that we do something. You actually beautifully talked about giving the space for people to talk about what's happening, to bear witness to it, to have them see reflected across from them that you care and that it impacts you as a human. Those are all really meaningful messages that we can give our clients, and then helping them to process that through our therapeutic modalities. It is so powerful.
What stays with you after a client or after a long day?
After the last client, I liked what you were talking about, and that resonates as well with me. I think one of the things that stays with me is, and you highlighted it, and I'm going to expand, that people are holding things that they don't believe that they can tell to their friends, to their family, to their community. And the profoundness of that loneliness and isolation. I find myself reflecting on that quite a bit.
Yeah.
And it's why I think you'll hear me here at Coventry and among colleagues and friends talking about the importance of community.
Yeah.
And there's something has shifted, right? Something has shifted in the world. And I don't want to necessarily go into all the reasons why it might shift, although maybe we touch on some of them. And we're losing touch with our neighbors.
Yeah.
And our friends. And the other thing I'm seeing is in that pain and that heaviness, we are choosing to withdraw from those relationships to cater to the pain. And it's so unintentional. I don't want anybody to hear that that's an intentional move.
Yeah.
But I think it feels necessary in the moment. But what we know from research and what we know from probably doing this job is giving ourselves the opportunity to go be with our friends and family, go check in with our neighbors, go do something out in our community, really does provide the solve or take away some of the pain that we're holding on to. It won't get rid of all of it.
No.
There's more work to do, but it really can give us an opportunity to have some relief from it.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah. So that's really what sits with me.
Yeah. And I guess another piece of this that we can talk about is kind of what might feel like the hardest part of carrying these things at the end of the day, after the last client. Yeah. Does anything come up for you around that?
Yeah, that I'm not so different. Right? I think sometimes the hard part is that what we see in the room can sometimes or oftentimes, I'm going to take the some away and move to often.
Yeah.
Oftentimes can be reflective of how we're experiencing the world.
Absolutely.
Right? I would say, have I noticed? And we are in Canada. And so like, have I noticed that in the winter, I'm more likely to retreat to my home at the end of a day and, bypass that yoga class I signed up for or opt out of the cold winter walk with a friend, to isolate in front of a TV. Yeah. Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. So I think that creates some of the, and I think you said like the thing that I carry, the heaviness. Part, is that I'm sitting with clients who I see it and I'm supporting it. And then I'm leaving at the end of the day knowing I'm probably gonna go do that too.
Yeah, I think that's like such a common experience amongst therapists that we, kind of talk with each other about, right? Is sometimes it can feel like maybe, and I say this with such kindness, like hypocritical. We're sitting in front of clients, telling them to regulate, take a breath, connect, like do all these things that we know are helpful and soothing for the nervous system. And sometimes we struggle with that ourselves. Like we're not always, the most regulated, grounded, connected person in the room. Again, we are human, and a lot of the things our clients struggle with, we also struggle with too. And so, I agree that can be a hard part of the job to carry of, am I supposed to know how to do all of this like beautifully? And the reality is no. And sometimes like acknowledging the truth of that can feel uncomfortable for sure.
What would you say the hardest part is for you? Or what's the heaviest thing you carry? I
think it's sometimes being truthful and honest about, with myself about how hearing what I hear impacts me. I think sometimes, and I would probably imagine I'm not alone in this as a therapist, but we like to kind of maybe live in a bit of this space where like we're good, these things don't say
fine.
Yeah, we're fine. If a therapist ever asks you how you are, you're not going to get away with fine.
That's right.
Because fine usually isn't fine. But that's often an answer we'll have, right? And it, I think, keeps us in this space of, trying to believe that it doesn't affect us. We don't carry these things home with us. It doesn't sit in our nervous system. And sometimes it'll just hit you like a ton of bricks and you're like, oh yeah, I am feeling something from that. And it could be, you know, an activator that's totally unrelated to something you talked with a client about, but these things do sit in your system. Like we pick up on that, we read that energy and that emotion, and yeah, it's a lot. And so I think sometimes it's hard to sometimes like get out of that maybe space of denial where I'm like, I'm good, I'm fine, none of this affects me.
Yeah.
Because it does. And that's part of the job. It's part of what comes with it. That's also why we have, you know, peer support, supervision, our own therapy, right? Like all these supports in place so that we can be that kind of, you know, best version of ourselves in a session with a client. But yeah, we'd be lying to ourselves to say it doesn't have an impact on us.
Of course. Mm-hmm. And we care about our clients.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the other piece. We're sitting with people who we care about, who are in pain. Mm-hmm. And like you said, our job is not to fix it. And so sitting in that tension can impact us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that leads us really beautifully into our next question, which is, how do you hold all of this without taking it home?
Yeah. It's a great question. I think this is an evolving thing that we learn as therapists. Mm-hmm. We talk about it in school. You know, I've had clients ask me like, how do you not get impacted by this? Yeah. And I first say, I am impacted.
Yeah.
The difference is holding it in my nervous system.
Yes.
So we do learn about this in school, of activities to create like supportive strategies or boundaries or whatever. So for me, one of the things is we debrief the really hard stuff. We pull a colleague aside and just let them know the thing that we're holding or the thing that's created distress or an emotional response in our system, so that we can be cared for in that experience. Mm-hmm. That's one thing that I know, if it's sticking to me, that I'm going to ensure that I can do. Yeah. The other thing that I'm going to do is move my body. Yeah. So, right, like we hold this in our bodies. While we may talk about it using our complex brain and the areas of our brain that communicate, the heaviness that we're feeling, the pain or the distress or the trauma or shame is going to be in our body. Yeah. So it's not uncommon for people to see me dancing in the reception area or in the kitchen. I'm going to dance it out a little bit. Yeah. Shake it off.
Yeah, shaking it out.
As Taylor Swift would say.
We are both Swifties.
Yes, absolutely. And then if I'm heading home, I'm going to put on a playlist that helps me also get this out. So we know that singing or humming is a really great way to bring our nervous system back into a more neutral position. Yeah. And so it's not uncommon, if you've driven beside me anywhere on the roads of KW, to see me singing my heart out on my way home.
Yeah, belting it out.
What about you, Hilary? How are you decompressing after hearing the tough stuff?
Yeah, similarly to you, a big one for me is movement, exercising, doing things that feel good for my body. I love going for walks. I love running, you know, lifting weights, anything that just kind of helps me kind of exert anything that it feels like I might be holding on to. I also will sometimes do the kind of shake it out. Like imagine you're shaking, you know, kind of the client's story out. Not that we're forgetting it, but just kind of like shaking the impact out. And again, like debriefing, supervision, right? Making sure I have space to talk about things that maybe are weighing on me heavily, that aren't so easy to kind of like leave the head. Boundaries, another good one, which I think I'm not always great at. I can definitely acknowledge that, but you know, our emails, right? So like in private practice, we kind of work, I would say, unconventional hours. Like we work evenings, weekends. It's not your typical 9 to 5 all the time. And so sometimes you might be getting emails from a client at 9 o'clock at night. And so kind of making sure you have boundaries in place to, you know, not work when you're not at work, which again, I've struggled with in the past, but that is something that can be helpful, especially if you're taking vacation as well, you know, putting that vacation responder on your email. So
mine will be going on tonight.
Yeah. Melissa's flying off to Italy, not taking me with her. But yeah, just making sure like you really do create that space and separation for yourself so that you're not, again, like bringing work home with you in that way. Yeah, and one, I guess, kind of final strategy is connection, laughter. I love going home at the end of the day and like having a good laugh with my partner. That always, laughter is very regulating. Again, another type of like physical outlet for us, but yeah, just connecting and like kind of, I guess, finding the joy in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've mentioned supervision a couple times, so I think maybe we should talk about what that is, because of course we're making assumptions about who our listener is, and we want everyone to listen. So supervision for us as therapists is when we meet with someone who considers themselves a supervisor. Oftentimes these are people that have taken specialized training. They're also have been in the field for quite a long time.
Yes.
They're going to work from a similar space. So these the people that we might be seeing have been working in private practice. They've been therapists for a number of years.
Yes.
And we're going to go to them. We pay for this service and we go to them and we talk about the cases, not in terms of breaching confidentiality, but rather what are the things that are sticking with us so that we're not feeling capable of supporting the client with, or moving the client and helping the client process or move with. And really it gets into being reflections on what's happening for us in the room, or what you may have heard of words like transference and countertransference. So what is the client kind of putting on us as a relationship or a belief about who we are? That's transference. And then countertransference is what are we applying to the client, which may be reflective of a relationship or a person or a belief that we have. And supervision really helps us untangle that so that we can go back to our clients with, a different perspective, a different modality, and or a different, a relieving of a bias or a belief that we had in the room that we were unconscious of.
Yeah, supervision can feel very similar to therapy, but it's more therapy focused. So like in our own therapy, we're talking about things that are likely happening in our own life, whereas this is more, we're talking about clients, the things that are sitting with us or feel complicated, or we're not quite sure where to go, or like what to do next if we're feeling particularly stuck with a client. Supervision is also, I'd say, like part of our kind of ethical clinical responsibilities as a therapist. Absolutely. To make sure that we're seeking that out. And when you first become a therapist, there are certain like regulations you need to meet, either through so for psychotherapists, it's the College of Registered Psychotherapists of Ontario. For social workers, it's
the Ontario College of Social Workers and Social Service Workers. Don't worry, it's a mouthful.
But yeah, so both of those have regulations that we're kind of expected to meet, and standards around like what supervision looks like for us. But supervision can be really helpful tool for us, and so it is very much a part of kind of how we cope with things after the last client.
Absolutely. So part of our podcast is going to be to end with what is a glimmer from this week and what is an edge. And so edge for me is, when I think about that word, just to kind of highlight it, it's our learning edge, or it's a thing that maybe made us uncomfortable and has us reflecting a little more, or learning a little more, or needing to take to supervision potentially. So Hilary, I'm going to start with you. What's one glimmer you could take away from this week, and what's one edge?
Yeah, I'll be honest, glimmers feel hard for me to think about this week. This has been a particularly challenging week for me, both clinically, professionally, also some personal stuff. But I know there's something in there somewhere.
Well, the nice thing about glimmers is they can be small. Right?
Yeah. I mean, glimmers, it was a gorgeous day yesterday, and I got out for a really lovely walk in the sunshine. I also was able to spend some really good quality time with my partner, which always feels really nice. So that's definitely a glimmer. And in that, he's been incredibly supportive this week with what has felt, as I said, as a challenging week. So that's a glimmer too. Look at that. I just did 3.
There you go. Right?
An edge. I think one of them has been with work. I've had to kind of grapple with a bit of a difficult decision to make, and I've come to a conclusion with that, and I'm feeling confident in it, but it's been really difficult to get to that place, and I've been struggling with a lot of feelings around it, and a lot of different parts have been showing up for me. Melissa has been very supportive in helping kind of talk through those things with me. But yeah, that's definitely a prominent edge for me this week.
Yeah. That's totally fair.
What about you? What are some glimmers and edges for you?
Yeah, so this week I got to play in a parent kiddo basketball game for my daughter's basketball team. And that was definitely a glimmer. One, I was proud of myself for getting out on the
Kudos
court.
to you.
It's been about 40 years since I've played like an actual game of basketball. I will say I took lots of breaks.
I'm sure.
Maybe more than other parents. But
that's okay.
I was really proud of myself, seeing your kiddo beam at the at knowing that you're out there and supporting them and playing with them. It meant a lot, and so I'm so glad I did it.
Yeah.
She also said at one point, "Mom, why don't you sit out this time?"
You can always count on them for honesty.
For honesty, absolutely. I think she could see how winded I was.
You look like you need a break.
Yeah, absolutely. And an edge for me this week has probably been just having a lot more clients who are experiencing some profound grief. And again, having that feeling that comes up of wanting to take this pain away while knowing how important it is that they get the opportunity to feel it and have it witnessed. And so, just reminding myself that it's okay to shake it out, to know that them having it is a normal human experience, and that they got an opportunity to express it and be with it in a way that they might not, as you said earlier, in a way that they might not in other areas of the world. So just a like an uncomfortable reminder for myself when those parts of me jump up.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So we're kind of approaching the end of our first episode.
This is so exciting. I'm so proud of us. We did it.
We did do it. So in terms of where you can find us, we are on all the socials, as the hip kids would say.
That's right. Tell me where those are for the people that are older.
We are on Instagram and Facebook. Instagram, our handle is @Calming Counselling. Facebook is @Calming. We are also on TikTok, which is actually under our podcast name, so After the Last Client. And we're on YouTube, LinkedIn. Our podcast, like the audio, will also be shared on Apple Music, Spotify, all those platforms.
Absolutely.
There on our Instagram bio, there's a link tree that like has the links to all of these things. So if you're looking for it in one spot, you can find us there. And of course, we also have our website, which is super helpful. Calming Tree, I think it's Calming Tree Counselling, right? Yeah.
CalmingTreeCounselling.ca or CalmingTree.ca. Either one will get you
Both
there.
of them work.
Yes.
So the website as well. Anything else you want to share about who we are, where to find us?
Yeah, so just a quick reminder. So Calming Tree Counselling and Psychotherapy, we are a group counseling practice here in Kitchener-Waterloo, Ontario. We see children as young as 4 all the way up to infinity, I like to say. We support children, teens, youth, adults. We see all dynamics of relationship and support families as well. And we have a group practice right now, I believe, of 13 or 14 clinicians. So therapists that come from, like I said, different modalities, different education backgrounds, all here ready to support the clients that come through the door. Yeah. So I think that's about commentary.
Yeah, that's us.
So let's end it like we're going to end it going forward. And this is a phrase that my clients hear a lot.
It's our trademark.
I'm going to start by saying thank you for listening and then take good care.
Take care, everyone.